Good evening. Welcome, everyone. I'm Bill Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor. This is the September 25th, 2025 meeting of the Brighton Town Board, and I hereby call our meeting to order. If you are able to, please rise and join in the pledge to the flag. If you aren't, please rise in spirit. Councilmember Wilt, if you would lead us, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get into the agenda, I want to take a moment to remember David Whitaker. David was passionate about serving the Brighton community and the greater Rochester community. And he was particularly passionate about preserving the history of Brighton, the history of Rochester. David and I served together on the board of the Landmark Society of Western New York, where he also served as interim director before the appointment of Wayne Goodman, the current director of Landmark. David was a charter member of the Town of Brighton Historic Preservation Commission, and that goes back quite a few years. He was also the chair of the board of Friendly Senior Living, the Al Siegel Center, and he had leadership roles in many other charitable organizations in town, including Historic Brighton, of course, Medical Motor Service, and RIT. David passed away earlier this month. I was fortunate to know him, to be able to work with him on the Landmark Society Board and with Historic Preservation and Historic Brighton when I was council. And I know I speak for everyone as we send our condolences to David's wife, Stephanie, and to his entire family. So I would ask if we could observe a moment of silence in memory of David Whitaker. Thank you. David fought a long fight. He didn't go down easily, but that just speaks to the kind of person he was. We'll begin the open forum in just a few minutes. Let me just briefly, the open forum is that portion of our town board meeting where members of the public can share their comments with the town board. If you are live streaming us on YouTube, you'll have to log into the meeting on Teams to speak during the open forum, or for that matter, we have one public hearing tonight. It's a public hearing concerning the removal of 2 trees in the town right-of-way, one in front of 20 Bonnie Bray and one in front of 58 Summit. So if you're looking to participate in any of those remotely, you'll have to log into Teams. There are details for doing that on the town's webpage, www.townofbrighton.org. As has been the case now for many years, the town board meetings are accessible to the deaf and hard of hearing community, thanks to our ASL interpreters. And tonight, Kat Womack and Mike Fisher are our interpreters. Thank you. We appreciate your service. Just as a reminder, the agenda for tonight's meeting, as well as all the materials we're looking at in making our decisions, they're available on the town webpage, of course, but they're also out for those here in the room. They're out on the desk in the lobby right outside the door. We do have some proclamations tonight. Our first proclamation is to observe Hispanic Heritage Month. Hispanic Heritage Month is observed every year from September 15th through October 15th. And the reason, unlike most month celebrations, instead of following a calendar month, Hispanic Heritage Month begins on September 15th to commemorate the independence days of the major Central American, Latin American nations, Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. All of them became independent on September 15th, 1821. Mexico and Chile also celebrate independence on September 16th and 18th, respectively. So that's the reason the celebration starts in the middle of the month. There are a number of celebrations throughout the Rochester community. Ours will be tomorrow at noon, right here in Town Hall. We will be honoring 3 community leaders: Felicia Garcia Hartstein, Carlos Garcia, and Al Burgos. And we'll also enjoy presentations by Brighton High School students from the Latino Student Union, as well as a musical presentation. I also highly recommend the MAGs, the Memorial Art Gallery's Hispanic Heritage Month event, which is this Sunday starting at noon. Great event, music, dance, just a wonderful, wonderful, and of course you get to enjoy the MAG itself. So let me read this proclamation. Whereas National Hispanic Heritage Month is observed from September 15th through October 15th to celebrate the histories, cultures, and contributions of Americans who trace their roots back to Spain, Mexico, the Spanish-speaking nations of the Caribbean, and Central and South America. Whereas Hispanic spirit, heritage, and leadership are woven into the culture of the United States with centuries-old traditions, rhythms, art, literature, and creativity that reflect the multi-ethnic and multicultural customs of the Hispanic community. Whereas this year's theme, Collective Heritage, Honoring the Past, Inspiring the Future, pays tribute to the immense contributions that members of the Hispanic and Latino communities have made in this country and recognizes their ongoing efforts towards improving America. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and the members of the Town Council do hereby recognize September 15th through October 15th, 2025 as National Hispanic Heritage Month in the town of Brighton. We encourage our residents to learn more about this diverse, trans-global culture. And the proclamation is signed this date, September 25th, 2025, by the members of the Brighton Town Board. Next, I'm going to call Jennifer and Christy to come join me, please. September is Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorders Awareness Month, or FASD. And it's a, we talk about important health-related observances, and one of the reasons they're so important is to raise awareness among communities about particular conditions, disorders, illnesses, and in some cases, how to avoid or treat, or how to learn more about them. But this month, that's exactly what we're doing. We're raising awareness of FASD, and a number of organizations in town are raising awareness about FASD, and in particular, encouraging prevention by avoiding alcohol during pregnancy and by supporting individuals and families who are impacted by FASD. So there's something we can do going forward, but we can also work today for people who currently are impacted by FASD. And I'll read this proclamation. Whereas prenatal alcohol exposure contributes to one of the most common developmental disabilities in the United States, with as many as 1 in 20 school-aged children impacted by fetal alcohol spectrum disorders, or FASD. Whereas there is no known amount nor time during pregnancy when it is safe to drink alcohol, as exposure can cause changes to the development of the fetal brain and body, often causing lifelong disabilities, including low IQ, learning disabilities, including low IQ, let me go back. Lifelong disabilities, including low IQ, learning disabilities, speech and language delays, mild to severe behavior problems, vision and hearing problems, problems with vital organs, and more. Whereas September is recognized as Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorders Month to draw vital attention to this disability through the promotion of accurate information and proper support for women to have alcohol-free pregnancies. And whereas too often professionals and community organizations have limited awareness about FASD and need effective training to remove its stigma and to ensure that people impacted by FASD have access to needed services. And whereas individuals and families living with FASD face many barriers in their search for medical and personal support. So the work of DePaul's National Council on Alcoholism and Drug Dependence in the Rochester area, Mount Hope Family Center, and the Division of Developmental and Behavioral Pediatrics at the U of R, and FASD United is critically important. Now therefore be it proclaimed that I, William W. Maley, Brighton Town Supervisor, and the members of the Town Council do hereby recognize September as Fetal Alcohol Spectrum Disorders Awareness Month in the town of Brighton. Thank the important organizations addressing FASD and encourage all Brightonians to promote the message that people with FASD and their families deserve access to the proper services and supports that allow them to thrive in our community. This proclamation is signed this 25th day of September, 2025, by myself and by my colleagues on the town board. I'm happy to present it to you with grateful thanks for the work you do in the community. And either or both of you, the microphone is yours. But first, let's get a little, come on over and we'll make sure we've got a photo here.
Bill, could you just remove the sticky note?
Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you.
Great.
Well, I just want to say it's actually been a really exciting FASD Awareness Month because for years, advocates have been working tirelessly to get legislation passed at the federal level to authorize statewide services and supports, because right now, Jennifer and I represent the vast majority of services that cover all of upstate New York. And we got news last week that the Senate unanimously passed the legislation for the FASD Respect Act, and the House passed it in June. So it's off to the President's desk this week for signature. And we're really excited because that then provides funding for us to work together with other partners across the state to see if we can increase access to services. So it's been a really exciting month. I really appreciate your support. If you're looking to continue your support, we have an event this Saturday at Northampton Park at the Ski Lodge where we're going to have about 100 people, families, providers. Sarah Clark is coming and others to really raise awareness and help show the community that we really value them and provide the different services and supports. So thank you for that. Would you like to say anything?
And again, thank you very much for this recognition. It's been interesting. This year, more than any other year, have been a marked increase in the requests for us to go out to school and community groups to talk about FASD, strategies for counselors. So I'm very encouraged by that. The ask, the want, the need has always been there, but now the ask and the recognition is terrific. What's happened at the federal level, as Christy described, is just a huge step for us, and we're hoping New York State then follows with recognizing the full spectrum for needed DDS services for families. We greatly appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Jennifer and Christy, and thank you for the important work that you continue to do. Our third proclamation tonight, I am going to yield the podium. The third proclamation recognizes the upcoming Week Without Driving, and I will invite Councilmember Christine Corrado to the podium to talk about the Week Without Driving and read our proclamation.
Sure, get the right one there.
I know.
Thank you very much. The power inherent in standing here and getting to read this proclamation. All joking aside, we often hear that Brighton is a wonderful community because it is a walkable and bikeable community. We choose our homes based on that. We choose our schools. We choose Brighton because it's walkable and bikeable. Many of us choose it because those are choices for us. But for many in Brighton and in the region, it's not an option. It is the only way to get around, or by transit, or by other mobility services. So the National Week Without Driving organization has been running an experiential week, 1 week a year for, I want to say, 6 years now. And Brighton has long looked at that and said, how can we participate? And this year was the year. So in partnership with Miriam Moore, our Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, she and I have been collaborating to promote this week to the community at large. This proclamation is but one part of it. There will be a town talk on Monday evening at 6 o'clock right here in this room, featuring people whose options for mobility in Brighton do not include driving their own vehicle. So this proclamation says, whereas the Week Without Driving, which runs from September 29th to October 5th, challenges those of us who depend on our own vehicles to go about our daily lives to manage those same activities without access to a private vehicle. And whereas mobility is a fundamental part of health, safety, and community connection, allowing residents and visitors to the town of Brighton to reach educational and employment facilities, medical services, shopping, recreation, and to visit friends and family. And whereas if you can drive a car or afford a car, you may not understand the experience of relying on walking, rolling, transit, and asking for rides to get around. But for nearly 1/3 of people living in the United States, people with disabilities, young people, seniors, and people who can't afford cars or gas. Side note, the cost of having a car is approximately $12,000 a year. And if the median income in our community is about $83,000 a year, that's a big chunk taken right out of your pocket just to have access to our community. Now I've sidetracked myself. Here we go. And who can't afford cars or gas, this is their everyday life. And whereas public transportation in this region does not adequately serve all parts of Brighton, and while expanding in Brighton and beyond, a strong network of sidewalks and bike paths is not available everywhere, making it difficult for those who cannot or do not drive to get around. And whereas for those who can and do drive, reducing trips by car for the Week Without Driving, and it's not completely without driving, is an impactful way to understand the gaps and limitations of the current state of our regional transportation, while experiencing firsthand the need to improve public connectivity to better serve the mobility needs of all of our community members. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that I, Councilmember Christine E. Corrado, Supervisor William W. Maley, and my colleagues on the Town Council do hereby recognize September 29th to October 5th as Week Without Driving, and we encourage all residents who can drive at will to instead join us in this informative experiential observance. So, if you're going to join us in this experiential observance, check out reconnectrochester.org. There is a pledge on that organization's website that you can take, and there are daily prompts for things that you can do to experience not getting around Brighton by car, instead getting around by bus, by foot, by bike, any other way. It's not a challenge in that you fail if you drive your car at least once or twice during the week. It is an experience and a way to begin to shift your perspective. The benefits of fewer vehicle miles traveled are manifold. It's not just reducing carbon imprint. It's not just making our streets quieter and safer. It changes your perspective on your community when you are up close to it and when you make different choices about how to get around. So reconnectrochester.org has the pledge, or come join us on Monday the 29th at 6 p.m. for a very informative conversation with members of the community who do not drive. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do this.
Thank you, Christine. I had briefly the opportunity to update Christine, but I'll update everybody on a meeting, a totally unrelated subject that I had across the street at the Golisano Institute for Entrepreneurship. And the president of the institution was part of that meeting. And I think we have a new partner. Anybody that's heard me talk about bus service here, and Christine the same, bus service in Brighton was severely cut back in the wake of RTS's Reimagine RTS. And in fact, some of the main bus routes that serve Brighton, particularly the route that used to start and run 7 days a week at the bus terminal on Main Street, down to Winton Road, down Winton, through the North Winton Village to the 12 Corners, and then across Elmwood Avenue to the largest employer in Monroe County, the U of R Medical Center. Their idea of improving bus service was to, A, cut out everything north of the 12 Corners. That bus now starts at the 12 Corners instead of serving communities that need transit service along the Main Street corridor and throughout North Winton Village. They cut out 7 days a week. They cut out most of the day and now serves about 4 trips at rush hour, as if the U of R Medical Center operates on a 9-to-5 schedule. Obviously, that hurt, the connections with the U of R, but there are so many opportunities, to use that run. They also cut back on service along West Henrietta Road. Service used to go in to East River Road into the South Campus of the U of R, the Laser Lab, the Alumni Advancement Center, and maybe most importantly, Whipple Park, where hundreds of international students of the U of R live. So there are so many reasons that this is a great idea, but in particular, I hope, and I'm glad we have a new partner across the street in the Golisano Institute to advocate for better bus service here in Brighton and throughout the region. Thank you, Christine. The final presentation of the evening is the 2025 tentative Town of Brighton operating budget and the budget message that I'll be giving. 2026, thank you. Yes, it's still 2025. It's hard to start saying 26. I'll deliver the budget message on behalf of our finance director, Earl Johnson, and Deputy Marcia Adams, and then Earl will give an overview of the tentative budget. Earl, I want to thank you, Marcia, and really everybody in your department, not just for the great work you do in developing the budget, but also for all the other things that you do in the finance department to make sure our financial condition remains strong and all of our financial operations are safe and secure. So thank you for that. Tonight, Town of Brighton Finance Director Earl Johnson, Assistant Finance Director Marcia Adams, and I present the 2026 Town of Brighton tentative operating budget to the town board, but also to the Town of Brighton community. We have 4 primary goals that guide us in developing the town's budget. Our first goal is to maintain and enhance the quality of life in Brighton by making investments in our community's future and by funding important town operations. Our second goal is to ensure that even as we invest in Brighton's future and meet the community needs of today, we also take appropriate steps to control the cost of government for our taxpayers. Third is to maintain the fiscal strength of Brighton, to ensure that we have sufficient reserves to guide us through unexpected crises and to allow us to borrow as needed at the lowest possible interest rates. Finally, fourth, we take measures to ensure that our budget development process is transparent and open to the public. This budget message and the tentative operating budget itself, as well as our 2026 through 2028 capital improvement plan that was approved unanimously by the town board at our last meeting on September 10th, each address these goals. Now, each year as we develop the budget and make this presentation, we note the external factors that drive the budget development process. As we approach the development of the 2026 budget, those external factors have never been more uncertain, extreme, and problematic. Traditionally, we consider inflation and other economic issues and their impact on the budget. But this year, as we do so, we must consider the impact of unprecedented acts at the federal level, including threats of tariffs that seem to come and go with the whims of the day, but which will inevitably result in higher costs of raw materials that impact the cost of maintaining and installing town infrastructure, and a potential government shutdown with many economic consequences. But maybe the most important and most immediate to the town is the planned elimination of clean energy funding and tax incentives that have already adversely impacted our town hall renovation project. The town hall renovation project will make extensive changes both to the interior of the building and to the town hall campus. It is based largely on replacing our obsolete HVAC system with a new and sustainable geothermal HVAC system. We also plan to install solar rooftop panels. The geothermal improvements and the solar panels may well lose their federal incentives, which will increase the cost of the project to the town and ultimately to taxpayers. Beyond that, inflation remains stubborn and is rising for many items, again, due to tariffs and the threat of tariffs, including many that impact town operations. We continue to face cost increases in wages, salaries, and especially employee benefits, including state-mandated contributions to the state retirement system for our employees, as well as health care premiums, both for current employees and for retirees. All of those are rising again this year at a rate far above the official rate of inflation. We will discuss these and other issues in our budget message so that you, the public, can continue to thoughtfully participate in the development and approval of our budget this year. The Annual Capital Improvement Plan, or CIP as we call it, is an opportunity to review and consider investments that will enhance the quality of life for the community. Infrastructure of all kinds, vehicles and equipment that allow the snow to be plowed, highways to be maintained, and police to preserve public safety are just some of the important investments we make each year, planned and funded through our CIP. Our town hall project and our planned community center project are major examples of important building projects that will make a significant difference in Brighton's future. The budget development process doesn't just consider big buildings and equipment. It also considers things like staffing levels and funding. The people who work for the town of Brighton serve our residents well, and I'm grateful for that. In preparing the budget, we make sure that we have staffing levels that meet current community quality of life needs, including well-maintained parks, recreation programs designed for all ages, streets and sidewalks that are plowed and safe, and public safety for all. We strive to meet our second goal, controlling costs, in several ways. We seek to fund some of our projects and other capital expenditures through grants. In the past 12 months alone, we've received federal, state, and county grants totaling over $2 million to support important improvements like new sidewalk construction, solar energy, law enforcement, bridge construction, and the town hall project. We've also recently applied for a $15 million grant from the state of New York under its BRICS grant program to design and build a much-needed community center for the town of Brighton. Another way we control cost is by funding capital projects as incentive zoning amenities provided by developers of projects that also build our tax base. Over the years, we've acquired and/or developed hundreds of acres of parkland, miles of trails, and other community amenities through the process of incentive zoning. We also collaborate with other governmental agencies in several insurance programs, providing property casualty and liability insurance, health care insurance for retirees and employees, and workers' comp insurance, all through consortiums of local governments, which allow us to pay local premiums, although, as you'll hear, still increasing much faster than we like, but cheaper than if we obtained that insurance coverage on our own. Going forward, projects like the planned renovation of Town Hall, as well as plans for our community center, will create significant new capital expenditure requirements, but they will also ensure that we maintain important town infrastructure, promote sustainability by using renewable energy, and enhance the quality of life for Brighton residents. Our success in meeting our third goal, maintaining and enhancing Brighton's fiscal condition, is demonstrated by our fiscal strength rating from the New York State Comptroller and our bond rating. The Comptroller annually rates the fiscal stress level of every municipality and county in the state of New York. While we've always received strong scores on this evaluation, we've just received our notice from the Comptroller's office, and we're receiving it into the record of tonight's meeting, that in 2024, for the fourth straight year, Brighton received a perfect score for low fiscal stress. That perfect score reflects the prudent and careful financial and budgetary planning we've maintained, even during those uncertain pandemic times and through to today. Our financial strength is also reflected in the town's high Moody's AA2 credit rating. Our strong fiscal condition not only helps reduce the cost of borrowing, but also ensures that sufficient resources are available in case of a natural disaster, pandemic, or other unforeseen future crisis. Finally, meeting our fourth goal, the process that the town of Brighton uses to develop and approve the town's budget is thorough, open, and transparent in a way that few, if any, other local communities can match. We strive to ensure that the public has access to the budget process and the ability to give input throughout. Each year, our budget development process begins in the spring, when department heads prepare a 3-year capital improvement plan for their departments, so that we can plan for important town projects and significant capital expenditures. The New York State Comptroller recommends that municipalities prepare a CIP, but it doesn't require that they do so. But the town of Brighton has found this a useful tool for our long-term future financial planning, and it's something we do every year. We do it in a very public way, with public review of the CIP taking place in public meetings of the Finance and Administrative Services Committee of the Town Board. It's reviewed by our Budget Review Task Force. Input comes in from members of our Budget Review Task Force, community members with specific expertise in financial matters. All that happens before action is taken to consider and approve the CIP in public by the town board, which again, we did unanimously at our last meeting. Following completion of the CIP, we move on to where we are tonight, the presentation and review of the town budget. Actually, we began that process in August, really, with our 2 public workshops. Every department head and members of their team come in and present their budget to open meetings of the town board. Our Finance and Administrative Services Committee discussed the budget at our meeting last week. We'll discuss it again at our next meeting. And maybe one of the most important things that we do, the state law, the town law in the state of New York requires 1 public hearing. But we've always, for decades, held 2 public hearings to make sure people have the opportunity to come in and discuss the budget. We also approved the budget before the November elections. State law would allow us to, and as in fact sometimes do, don't even present their budget until after Election Day. We think it's important that you see what we're doing. We make sure that that happens by approving the budget, or at least our goal of doing so is to approve the budget at our second town board meeting in October. I want to thank again Earl and your department, the members of the Budget Review Task Force, the members of our Sustainability Oversight Committee, which also provide input to the process. Now, we've talked about some of these increases in our expenses. First and foremost, we are facing double-digit increases in mandated expenditures for employee health insurance premiums. Last week, we were given our final premium increase number. Our healthcare premiums will be going up 13.9% next year. And that is despite the fact that we are part of a regional health insurance consortium, the Finger Lakes Municipal Health Insurance Trust. Community health plans are going up even more dramatically in many cases. We face significant increases in other personnel costs, again, many of which are mandated. Retirement system, New York State retirement system contributions in particular. So we are looking at large increases in those expense lines in the budget. Now, although in that capital improvement plan that we approved last week, our capital expenditures are actually down somewhat for 2026 as opposed to 2025. Those reductions are more than offset by all of these other significant budget increases elsewhere. And we have only nominal increases in other non-property tax lines that I'll talk about just briefly in a minute, and Earl will talk about more. As a result, the 2026 tentative budget for the town's operating funds proposes an increase of 3.8% in the townwide property tax levy for 2026. Your own tax bill will increase more or less, depending largely on the impact of special districts like sewer, water, sidewalk snow plowing, and refuse districts. Under those districts where the town ensures that only those who receive the services in question have to pay for them, often at a cost far cheaper than individuals could obtain on their own. Sidewalk snow removal and refuse districts are good examples of that. Due largely to the significant increases in the cost of employee and retiree health care, as well as other mandated cost increases that we've been discussing, the tax levy increase proposed in the 2026 budget exceeds the New York State tax cap, and we will hold a public hearing next month to consider a local law permitting the town to exceed the cap in our 2026 budget. Property tax receipts are the largest source of revenue, but they're not the only source. The town also receives revenues from mortgage and sales taxes, fees for programs and services, and other sources. The town of Brighton, like other towns in Monroe County, receives a portion of sales tax revenues generated from retail sales throughout Monroe County under a long-standing agreement, the Moore and Ryan Agreement, among Monroe County, local municipalities, including the city of Rochester, and school districts. It's been amended over the years, and we lost another lion in the community not long ago, former county executive Lou Moran. And he and former Rochester Mayor Tom Ryan developed that cost sharing that many counties don't have. Many communities have to do without those sales tax revenues because their leadership didn't have the foresight that Lou Moran and Tom Ryan had. Now, sales tax revenues have been, for many years, the second largest source of revenue for the town after property taxes. And they've risen somewhat in recent years after the pandemic. They've been relatively flat this year so far. So therefore, we've made sure to estimate our sales tax revenues a little bit lower than the actual revenues we received last year. Mortgage tax revenues have been depressed by the lack of real property closings. Obviously not because our real estate market isn't rising, but really because of a lack of inventory, a severe lack of inventory on residential homes in the town of Brighton. And because of some increases in mortgage rates, a significant decline in refinancing. Now, the inventory squeeze has recovered a little bit. Supply in Brighton is up somewhat. So we're hoping to see some recovery in our mortgage tax revenues. But we have continued to be conservative in our estimates. And that is really probably our most volatile revenue line, rising and falling dramatically over the years with interest rates. One of the other things we're doing is benchmarking fees and revenues for programs and services. We're comparing them to other communities to ensure that those fees reflect the actual costs of services we're providing, and to make sure that taxpayers don't unfairly bear the burden of those important activities. So again, let me thank everybody involved in the preparation of this budget. Earl, thank you. Finance Director Earl Johnson, Assistant Finance Director Marcia Adams. Developing the town's budget is never easy because we recognize the impact that property taxes have on our residents, particularly our seniors on fixed incomes. But the 2026 budget will maintain and enhance services. It will prepare us for our plans to construct a new community center following completion of the ongoing town hall project, while finding new ways to control the cost of government. I want to thank in advance members of the community. Again, I mentioned our Budget Review Task Force volunteers and everyone who may comment on our budget as we move into our two public hearings. Those public hearings will be at our next two meetings, October 8th and October 22nd, 7 p.m. both nights, right in this room. We're grateful for your support, we're grateful for your input, and we look forward to working with you to bring home another town budget that meets our needs, meets our goals, and serves the community for the future. Thank you. Okay, we will now begin the open forum. Have an open forum at the start of every town board meeting. The open forum is an opportunity for members of the public to address the board concerning any matter relating to the town, whether or not it's a matter on our agenda this evening. Although I would note, we do have one public hearing tonight. I mentioned it. It's relating to the potential removal of trees adjacent to 58 Summit Drive and 20 Bonnie Bray. So if you're here for that public hearing, I would encourage you to wait until we call the public hearing so your comments can be included in the record. Once we start the open forum, if you would like to speak, I encourage you, please raise your hand if you're here in person. When I call on you, I'll ask you to come up to the podium to speak. If you're participating in the meeting remotely and would like to speak, you must first join the meeting on Teams. As I mentioned earlier, follow the instructions on the town's webpage to do that. You'll be unmuted and given the opportunity to speak when you're called on. I ask all speakers during the open forum, whether you're speaking in person or remotely, to please state your name and address before speaking. Please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. I'll give you a 30-second warning before your time expires. We may not be able to answer if you have questions tonight. We may not be able to answer them, particularly if your questions relate to matters that are not on the agenda. But our goal every night, every town board meeting, our goal is to give you an opportunity to share your thoughts, address the town board, and for us to listen to your words. So if you would, please direct your remarks to the town board and not to the room or to other speakers. Please avoid personal attacks and outbursts of any kind, boos, applause, or the like during the open forum, out of respect for the speakers and out of respect for everyone's time. I don't see anybody with signs. We don't allow signs during the open forum. Please do follow these rules. People who don't will be warned. Repeated failure to follow the rules or to failure to follow other direction from the chair may result in your speaking privileges being ended early, being directed to leave the meeting, or the early termination of open forum. So with that, we'll begin the open forum. Is there anyone here tonight who would like to address the town board during the open forum? Please, Allie, come on up.
Good evening,
wait.
friends and neighbors.
You know what?
Yep.
I jumped. You know what we're going to do? We started this, so I'm going to continue. We'll do the open forum. My apologies. Thank you, Chris. I meant to toss it to Earl to present the budget. But let's hear from the public first. That's always important.
Okay. Good evening, friends and neighbors. Allie, Huron and Donnie, Sandringham Road. I speak tonight as the HBNA Houston Barnard Neighborhood Association president and resident. Thank you for giving me a few minutes tonight to talk about something that impacts every household here, recycling. Not long ago, our neighborhood enjoyed weekly recycling pickup. It was simple, reliable, and it helped us keep a huge amount of material out of our landfills. When the schedule was changed to bi-weekly pickup, the effect was immediate. Families found themselves with overflowing bins, and much of what could have been recycled has ended up in the trash. It's a sad state of affairs. In addition, families are throwing out recycling as the trucks will no longer pick up additional boxes placed beside the bins. Why is this so important? Because recycling isn't just environmental feel-good action. It's a core part of how we reduce waste, conserve resources, and save money. Every can, bottle, piece of paper that ends up in a landfill instead of recycling facility represents wasted energy, wasted materials, and wasted dollars. Let's break down the benefits of weekly recycling. Higher participation and higher recovery rates, cleaner streets and neighborhoods, lower long-term costs. Landfill space is expensive. The more we divert from the trash stream, the less we pay in tipping fees and the more we earn from materials that can be sold to recyclers. A stronger local economy. Recycling supports jobs and transportation, sorting, and processing. And there's something deeper, trust. When our community sets recycling rules but makes it hard to comply, it sends a mixed message. People lose faith in the system. By reinstating weekly recycling, we're showing residents that their efforts matter, that when they rinse that milk jug or flatten that cardboard, it will actually be recycled. Recycling isn't just a government program, it's a shared commitment. It's our promise to future generations that we will care for the environment we've been blessed with. And for us right now, it's also about practical quality of life. None of us wants to see recyclables blowing down our streets or piling up in our garages. The solution is simple. Bring back weekly recycling pickup. This isn't about politics or preferences, it's about common sense, efficiency, and pride in our community. Together, we can make recycling easy again, protect our environment, and ensure that the materials meant to be reused aren't wasted. I'll leave this with you. Our children are watching. They see the impacts of recycling, and when neighbors and friends are throwing recycling in the garbage, it sets a very poor example. We need to have an open and honest conversation about this topic and be willing to discuss. This vote was truly thrown on the agenda at the last minute. I am requesting we take the time to discuss prior to voting on this very important matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board during the open forum? We'll include your remarks in the record. Thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the town board during the open forum? I do appreciate you coming in, and I think it's important to understand a little bit how special districts worked. I talked a little bit about them, but refuse districts, of course, are only one kind of district that we have. But all districts, sewer districts, refuse districts, sidewalk districts, are creatures established under state law. Chapters 12 and 12A of the New York State town law. It's sometimes confusing when you talk about the town law. That's not Brighton's law, that's the town law of the state of New York. And the concept is that buying in bulk, as Councilmember Werner likes to say, can save us money, whether it's on services or whether it's on infrastructure. So the concept of special districts is having the people who benefit from them pay for them. People who have septic aren't part of the sewer district. They don't pay for the sewer. People who don't have sidewalks don't pay in the sidewalk district. Refuse districts, we all generate refuse. And what has happened over the years is that neighborhoods, streets, large parts of the town, and by January 1st this coming year, over 5,000 households in the town of Brighton will be in refuse districts. They've petitioned the town to join. The town uses competitive bidding to get the best price, and a price that private individuals can't get. I have talked today to people not in Brighton, but in other parts of Monroe County, who are paying as much as $900 for their refuse hauling from Waste Management. I think they're going to get on the phone tomorrow and try to negotiate that rate down. But my understanding is for individual customers in Brighton, Waste Management is giving them a starting rate of over $500. The town of Brighton refuse district rate is about $290. That was a function of competitive bidding. And we started, refuse, as I know you know, is changing, not just in Brighton, but throughout, certainly throughout New York. The big haulers are consolidating. There are fewer companies. Right now, there are really two large companies that serve Brighton, and they're going to a more automated system with that one-person truck and a claw that comes out. And that, that process really started here in April. So we've been working under this new system and the current contract with Waste Management for only about 5 months. We are voting tonight, and We did, on the agenda as well at our last Public Works Committee meeting, we did discuss this. So this is not something that we threw on the agenda at the last minute. I have to say that. And we had a good, robust discussion at that meeting, and we will talk about it further tonight. So, is there anyone else that would like to speak during the open forum? Okay, hearing none, I think what I'm going to do, if everybody is amenable to this, what I'd like to do, since we have someone here, I'd like to move the renewal on the waste management agreement up in the agenda, if that's okay with everyone.
Did you want to? Okay.
Yeah, we'll do that, and then we'll have the budget presentation.
Anyone else for the open forum, or shall we approve the agenda?
I think we can, let's approve the agenda with the change in that item of new business.
Bill, I move that we approve the agenda with the shuffling of the discussion on waste management.
Thank you.
Second?
Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. And Chris, would you make a motion on the waste management renewal?
Yes, Bill. Bill, I move that we authorize the supervisor to renew an agreement with Waste Management of New York for refuse and recycling in town refuse districts in an amount not to exceed $290.51 per year per household, for a one-year term from January 1, 2026 to December 31, 2026, with 3 additional one-year renewal options, and that we adopt the resolution before us.
Can I have a second?
Second?
Discussion.
Bill, I share the community's concerns about service for refuse, and I, for one, feel that the waste management service has been excellent, and the change to a 96-gallon toter for recycling versus an 18-gallon bin, I feel actually provides us better service, even on an alternate week basis. Yes, I have to look out on the Tuesday night and check to see whether it's the recycling week or just the refuse week. But actually, we're getting more volume available to us with the 96-gallon toter. And I get a tremendous amount of recycling in and never fill it. In fact, I've loaned it out to a couple of neighbors because their children were moving out of house on either side of me. And had a lot of boxes left over that they needed a little more space for. But on a regular basis, I don't even fill half the bin on a 2-week basis. If, however, there is an excess, it can be, you have to put it aside or go to your neighbor's house and it can be accommodated. But I've found that the 96-gallon toter works fine and in fact keeps the recycling off of the street to the extent it's not blowing around the neighborhood when it is stacked up. Yes, we have to be a bit more attentive. Make sure we get this week's recycling into the bin and the following week as well, and all of it out to the street. And if we miss a week, we're going to have a backup. There's no question about it. But in balance, with the cost at $290 a month.
A year.
Excuse me, $200, excuse me, oh my goodness. $290 a year. That's an extraordinary savings over what it has been in the past, and I believe provides that same amount of recycling capacity, in fact, more than what we've had in the past. If folks do feel on a regular basis that they need a greater capacity, they do have the option at an additional $60 for the toter and an additional $60 for the year. Is that correct?
It's $60 per year.
Per year additional. can have a second toter available to them if, in fact, they find that their family does generate more recycling than fits in that 96-gallon toter. But that capacity is 5 times more than what we had in the bin. And it all fits in that 96-gallon toter, and the truck comes by more efficiently and picks it up on an alternate week basis. And it saves trucks on the street and that gas as well. So it's a change. I've had to adapt to it. I appreciate that. But I've found it actually to be more effective. So I will vote in favor of renewing it for this 1 year. And Waste Management has been very accommodating for it with the questions the community has raised about front door pickup and whether or not we have to wheel the toter to the street if we don't have the capacity, and the availability of other containers as well. So far, they've been receptive to our requests for changes. That's my position, but I do appreciate your coming in and raising these issues, which are my concerns as well. But we hope we've attended to it.
Thank you, Chris. Further?
Yeah. I will say that our family is actually on the other end of the spectrum. We recycle a lot of materials, and I'm going to take issue with the concept that we were only limited to that 18-gallon bin on a weekly basis, because actually prior to the automation, Waste Management was actually taking far more than just one bin's worth of material if the customer did put out more than that. And we, on a regular basis, had 3 or 4 bins that we were putting out on the curb, and of course Waste Management would take all of them. So when we switched over to the 96-gallon tote with no opportunity to supplement that tote if we had large recyclables, like larger boxes or whatever, that did create a situation in our household where my husband is actually making a weekly trip to the eco park. And my husband, as I'm to understand, is like one of the few people who is actually going that extra mile to make sure that those materials are recycled. A lot of people are just putting the excess recyclable materials into the trash. So while yes, we, technically were provided just one 18-gallon bin in the past, I think it was more customary for people to recycle a lot more than that 18-gallon bin. Some households, like yours, may have just been using that bin, but I mean, I am also in a 2-person household, and we recycle far more than that. I mean, our volume of trash, we don't need that huge toter for our trash, but we actually could use a lot more recycling capacity than we currently enjoy. And so it does concern me that people are generally not as good actors as my husband in driving that extra material to the eco park, which, again, I don't know how carbon neutral that is, driving it to the eco park. But I will say that, curtailing the volume of recycling has been a trial for our household.
And if I just may,
Chris, I want to make sure everybody gets a
please,
chance.
You're right, Bill, excuse me.
Well, I took some time to think a lot about this because the community's thinking a lot about this. And I acknowledge change is hard, but change can also reveal the need for further change to achieve the optimal state. And this matter being on the agenda tonight is particularly timely because Nate and I live in the same neighborhood, and trash pickup is tomorrow. So
Yes.
when I get home
Good
tonight,
reminder.
I will be rolling out 2 giant toters that I can just see above. So I've received upwards of 40 emails and dozens of texts, had numerous conversations at the door, followed discussion in various social media forums about the changes and the challenges. Part of the challenge in adapting to these changes is mindset, in that the changes coincided with the ratification of a 5-year renewable contract. So we had a couple changes all at once, right? The upside of these contracts of a 5-year renewable is that we get the bulk rate, and we also have, we can anticipate the increase to that rate because it's laid out in that contract, and we get stability in the service that we're receiving, whether it's good service or not, and that's a little bit, there's more to that. So when the town put the contract out to bid, that it resulted in this 5-year renewable contract, Waste Management came back with a proposal that incorporated changes that are happening nationwide in the refuse collection industry, and that's specifically the containerization of everything. And the automated pickup process, and for the sake of efficiency and for the sake of safety. And we questioned the Waste Management representative at length. I think Councilmember Werner and I were the most pokey about it, getting into the details and the weeds. But certainly we all had a lot of questions to refine what the service would look like. In particular, I wasn't convinced that the scale of the new recycling totes would be manageable, considering the small size of our garages and our town code that requires us to hide our trash in the garage or in the backyard, side yard. It's complicated, right? We're a dense, compact community. And I also had some concerns about the scale of the totes for people small in stature or who have physical issues that make wrangling those totes a challenge. The shift to every other week collection for recycling was a concern, but at the time we were hearing from Waste Management, they made the case that the 96-gallon totes are 4 times the size of the blue bins, and such that the totes, even on an every other week schedule, that represented a doubled capacity for recyclables. But of course, that doesn't take into account, you can no longer set things to the side neatly and have those tossed in. That was a detail that was not emphasized, and it also was not considered. It never crossed anyone's mind, really, right? We're so accustomed to that. But with the reassurance that front door service would be restored for residents who previously had a need for it, and the commitment to establishing an application process for future needs, an orderly application process for that service, and with the acknowledgement that cutting recycling collection runs in half means cutting carbon emissions created by that service in half, and with some other things, so other new elements like the establishment of a web-based municipal customer service tool and the cost savings that we get, I ultimately voted in favor of the contract. We have to note the contract began January 1st, but the changes really didn't take effect until equipment came available to Waste Management. So the new recycling totes with lids, which the lid aspect, lots of people like it, although I struggle to get that darn lid up and over, but that's another issue for another day. I need a step stool. Those were distributed in April, and then the garbage and recycling trucks with the automated grabbers started to come online around the same time, not all at once. So there was a transition from being able to leave everything at the curb, regardless of condition, to or regardless of containerization, to needing to containerize everything. I don't think that was communicated super clearly by Waste Management, neither the implementation of the process or the change in the process. So it was staggered, but it's ultimately district-wide now. The committee-level discussions didn't reveal the change regarding collection of overflow. And that seems to be the change that is most frustrating district-wide. There are other specific challenges, but that seems to be the the number one concern, at least as I've tallied from all the communications I've gotten. And some folks have made adjustments about sharing bin space. My neighbors have the code to my garage. They can pop in anytime and add to whichever bin needs adding to. But not everybody has that option, and it ebbs and flows, right? The bulk item collection is another sticky point for me. That service has always been available. You always had to call if you had that nasty old sofa that finally came out of the basement and it sat on the curb, and Waste Management seemed to pick up when they said they would pick up. With all the changes and the addition of the self-service website, I thought, oh, this is good. They're becoming more efficient in scheduling the routing for these pickups. They're giving a date certain for the pickup. This will be good. And it hasn't been that good. And we're seeing a lot of folks stuck with stuff on the curb. That puts them at odds with our town code that says it's got to be collected. It can't be sitting out there. It just opens up all kinds of sticky wicket situations. Most people have found the phone number and the self-service site. It's operating better. It's improving. And all of this is to say that, as some of the wrinkles in the rollout of the process have been smooth, there are still significant creases. And yet, at this point in the calendar and in the contract renewal timeline, opening this up for bid would be rushed and complicated. If we don't approve the renewal tonight, it opens us up to chaos in a way that is greater than perhaps the challenges we're facing right now with the quality of service and the level of service. I chair the Public Works Committee, and I've asked for staff and Waste Management and my colleagues to support a data-driven remediation and decision process. And that is, I expect the following from Waste Management and town staff by an evaluation point. And it looks like May of next year is probably the latest we want to go before we start to really dig into determining whether or not we want to renew or we need to put it out to bid. And we'll have conversations regularly. And so what I'm looking for from Waste Management is data as of January 1st of this year, showing the number of bulk pickup requests, how many are fulfilled on the promised date, how many are late in fulfillment, and of those late pickups, how long did it take before they were, before the items were picked up. And I'd like our town staff, who are, overburdened. We've got one guy fielding a lot of calls and emails, and not to say that that's not important work, but it is not necessarily the work of an engineer. We're taking his time from engineering and putting it to this service, which is necessary, but for his sake, I would like to know the number of calls and emails to Town Hall for support, and I'd like those tallied by issue and the resolution. I don't know when we start that, because I don't know if Chad has been tallying calls and content and resolution. And additionally, starting immediately, we're not waiting until May, I expect clear, timely, direct communication at the top, from here forward for the newcomers to the consolidated district. And at the top of 2026, from Waste Management to the customers in the district that detail the cost to the household, service schedules, recapping that, even if they haven't changed, straightforward explanation of exactly how residents should be preparing their refuse and recycling for pickup. And this communication at the top of the year has been welcomed, but inconsistent over the last few years. And this past year, again, probably in relation to the new processes and the new contract, it was exceptionally late. And I think if we have that information by May of next year for consideration, we'll have adequate time to make a prudent decision about renewing for a third year or putting it out to bid. And in that case, we have greater understanding of exactly what we need to ask for, exactly how it needs to be provided, and, we have a baseline and we have knowledge.
Bless you.
Bless you. So all of that to say, I'm personally not fully satisfied with the service. I recognize that many of the changes are necessary, that the process needs to be refined. And while I will vote in favor tonight for renewing because of the need to avoid upheaval and chaos, I am going to be riding Waste Management very hard in terms of providing the community providing the level of service that we need and seeking a solution to that. We don't have the answer instantaneously. We don't have the path to it exactly right now, but we can find a solution that will make the vast majority of customers happier than they are right now. So I will support it, but with caveats and reservations.
Thanks, Christine. I want to start with where you mentioned staff. And I wanted to start by recognizing, Glenn Layton, his team, Chad Roscoe, the supervisor, Bill Maley, who I don't think it's possible to tally the amount of hours that you all have spent talking to residents, negotiating with Waste Management. I was joking at the last Public Works meeting. I think that these three could go into Waste Management and start their own garbage collection company. I don't know if anyone knows more about garbage than the three of you guys. So I want to start with, I don't think when Glenn joined the town, he thought he'd be talking about so much garbage, but deep appreciation from me and I think from all of us up here for the amount of work that you guys have put in to make this contract better. And that's kind of where I want to go next, which is, Christine had referred to this when we talked about the options 1 year ago today. There was, of course, they had priced out the different options, and we could see clearly which one was the most expensive and which was the cheapest, and the size of the bins and the pickup frequency. But there were changes hidden there that I'll speak for myself, that I was unaware of and really taken off guard with. And the first was, the stoppage of front door service, especially for senior residents who had really relied on that service. That service was stopped without any notice to us in the town or to the residents, which is completely unacceptable. And again, put Glenn and Chad and the supervisor in a really bad position, because we had just voted to do this change. We had publicized that we chose to do this, and as far as I'm concerned, Waste Management left us all out to dry. So front door service was one. And the other issue was the pickup on the side of the bin. When we voted for this, I had figured, well, it's a much bigger toter. You can break down your cardboard and lay it on the side next to the garbage bin. I don't know how to use Amazon, but I know a lot of other people do. And I also know that takes up almost all the space in your bin, to the point where when you start to try to put those milk cartons in, you've got no more room because the cardboard, you can't cut it into small enough pieces to fit it all in there. And trust me, I've tried. The other issue is, we talked about the size of the bin. Councilmember Wilt referred to the fact that you used to be able to use different sizes, and now they were telling us, well, you can only use this large size, which is of concern to residents who are a little bit older, who may want to still wheel their canister down, but they didn't want to use as big of a canister. And I will say that because of the work of the supervisor and Glenn and Chad, we have fixes.
Chad. And Chad.
Yes, and Chad. We had fixes to a lot of those issues. We really did. We now our residents are allowed to use a smaller Waste Management canister. The front door service has been restored with an application put together by our team, Chad, and those changes are being communicated by Chad and our team in a way that we expected Waste Management to do that. So I want to start by saying that this town team has worked very hard on behalf of our residents to, as far as I'm concerned, fix a lot of the errors that Waste Management has made in this dealing. Now, a year ago, we sat here and we discussed the Waste Management contract. We had a really thorough conversation, and there was nobody here. And there's nobody talking about it on Facebook. I got 0 emails about it, 0 text messages, and 0 phone calls. And that's fine. People are busy, and it's not their job to stay up to date on our town agenda. Coming into this meeting, for the last several months, I've been stopped at Bagel Land by former teachers. I've been stopped while I'm walking the kids by neighbors. I've gotten phone calls and emails. Just today, I was getting text messages from numbers I don't recognize saying, "Hey, Nate, I want to talk to you about garbage." I give out my cell phone a lot. So it's good that people are paying attention. This is a really positive thing. And I think that this is an opportunity for us to have that full conversation again, where we talk about the different size toters, we talk about the different prices, and we talk about we really explore this option as a true option, not just an automatic renewal. And so unfortunately today, I don't believe that we have gotten to the point where we have flushed out all of those options. I wanted to see cost estimates for a return to weekly. I wanted to see a discussion about pickup around the can. I wanted to see the Waste Management representative, to be honest with you. And that hasn't happened. 1 year ago, I sat here with my colleagues, and we unanimously supported this contract. But it comes back to one of my favorite sayings I have, which is, I would rather get it right than be right. And in this instance, I think that I learned a lot personally over this past year from the residents, and I want to take those lessons into consideration and fully flush this out with all the public watching and paying attention, so we make the best decision for the most amount of our residents. And so that's why tonight I plan on voting no on renewing this contract.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ally. Thank you to the people that have communicated with members of the board. Thank you to those who did so in a civil way. That's what local government is all about. You can't walk onto the floor of Congress and do this, but you can do this at your local town board. That's what we strive to do for a long time. And what we have strived to do for a long time is make sure that those local services that affect our lives the most, the ones that, we have them, we're not going to do anything about tariffs other than, maybe protest and everything out. We're not going to change that. But we can work to make sure that services like refuse collection are done as effectively as possible. Chad Roscoe has worked, what he's worked off. He's worked very hard for the people of Brighton, and there have been areas that I think Waste Management has not performed up to the expectations that I would have had. We know we've talked about what most of them are: front door service, and with a lot of effort, and John Mancuso, council as well, was a part of making sure that we now have an arrangement under which people actually have a choice. If there's a challenge in getting their toter out to the street, they can either request the front door service, or they can request a smaller toter. At this point, we've had about 35 people do that, and Chad always teases me the next morning, but if you're looking for that service, if you need that service, or if you need another toter, and that's been one of the ways so far we've addressed issues with toter capacity. We've had 11 people request a second recycling toter. Chad Roscoe can work with you on either one of those things. 784-5224. Apparently, I may have misspoken his number at the last meeting, 784-5224, Chad Roscoe, or chad.roscoe, R-O-S-C-O-E, at townofbrighton.org. But I'm a guy that likes to look forward, and I want to look forward here tonight. In meetings with our waste management representative, we've addressed some of the issues that have been resolved, and now we are looking forward. For example, on bulk pickup, which does seem to be the issue right now that people are having the most questions about. Some seem to be going fine. Some are not, and by are not, I was hearing people a couple weeks ago who were being told they'll get picked up on September 17th or something like that. And I know people expect to have material picked up quicker than that. So we've had that conversation. We're working on coming up with a plan to have more regular, more frequent, more consistent bulk pickup service. And by bulk, I do mean, the big pieces of furniture, the mattress, the ottoman, whatever. So that's one area where I'm cautiously optimistic that moving forward. But there are some other things that I've certainly been talking about for quite some time, and in particular, organic composting is something that this community, we've seen it. People, a number of people use Impact Earth. But I think we saw how did recycling take off in Monroe County? Recycling took off with those blue boxes. When the county mandated countywide traditional recycling and the blue boxes came out, and there was a sea change. It was hard to get people to recycle when they had to take their stuff somewhere. And similarly, it's hard to get people to recycle to organic compost when they have to take stuff that's sometimes smelly. The good news about the traditional recycling material, cardboard, glass items, cans that have been washed, they really shouldn't smell. But organic composting does, whether it's chicken bones or coffee grinds or who knows what it might be. But organic composting certainly can smell, which makes it even less palatable to schlep it somewhere. I'm very pleased that Waste Management is looking progressively at providing curbside pickup. I think that is really going to be a sea change in how a community like this one that wants to recycle as much as it can and has been. We're also talking with them about an intermediate step, a singular drop-off point, and that Waste Management would then collect from. But that would only be a temporary transition to moving forward with, I hope, townwide, countywide, curbside organic composting. I understand the desire to get cost estimates. The challenge is this. As a governmental entity, we can't simply change things on the fly. We can't say, hey, Waste Management, we want you to change to weekly. We have to go to bid. Doing anything other than renewing the existing contract would require us to go to bid. And that's why we can't give even an estimate of what it might cost to go to weekly recycling. Not only can we not give an estimate of what it might cost, but we can't today know for sure whether Waste Management, Casella, the other large hauler, or anybody would do weekly recycling. The only way we could find that out and what it would cost would be we would have to go out to bid. I appreciate, and I think Councilmember Corrado asks some good questions, and the community needs to have answers. I'm not quite as sanguine as Chris has been about their level of performance. They can do better. I'm hoping that they will do better. I'm hoping that they will do better not only with these traditional services, but moving us in a positive direction for the future. And the kind of data points you're looking for, I think will be helpful, and there may be others. So, again, Chad, I really, Glenn, Chad has worked very hard for our people. I was thinking about Chad when I wrote earlier about what a great job our employees do, because Chad has gone to the mat for the community, and I'm grateful for that. So I'll be voting to renew the contract, but in line with what, and I think always it's important whenever we have a contract renewal to be able to give it a good evaluation. And it's going to be important that we do that next year. Evaluate service, evaluate the actual cost of what it would cost to change the service, the availability of alternatives, the number and the number of people who show that having a greater capacity is there. Right now, 11 people have asked for a second toter. That's an important data point to me. So thank you for the input, and we're going to keep our eyes open.
And Bill, what we're talking about here is renewal of 1 year.
Correct.
And we have options to renew further, but if we
1 year
decide
option.
after Waste Management has responded to all of our requests for changes and modifications through the year, as they've done so far, and if we're not satisfied at that point, we can put it out to bid, and we'll have time to put it out to bid and consider all the different options once again.
Yep.
And, but this is just a 1 year renewal.
And the time for making that decision is much sooner in the calendar year than now.
And frankly, it's
With a much
after
better track record.
having
be
more
after a
than
full
5
year of-
5 months of experience.
Yep, it'll be a full
is
year at
not-
that point of the service.
In a world that has changed, and, I went to a conference, the State Association of Towns conference in Cooperstown a couple of weeks ago, and waited behind a Casella truck as its grabber on a rural road in, I'm not even sure what county I was in at that point. This is not just Brighton. This is a sea change
Industry.
in how refuse is being collected in cities, in suburban areas, and in very rural areas like that. So I do want to see how that shakes out. Recognizing, though, that in a world where those two big companies are the ones that control the business, and are certainly the ones large enough today to do a community of our size, they have both changed their operating model, and that will affect our ability to look at options going forward. So thank you, everybody, for your input. Any other comments from the board? Then I'll ask for a vote on the motion that was made by Councilmember Warner and seconded by Councilmember Wilt to authorize me to renew that agreement. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Nay.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye, but reluctantly.
Councilmember Salzman?
No.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Thank you. And now Earl's getting up to make sure I don't forget about him. Earl, if you would share your budget presentation with us and with the community.
Our projector went to sleep.
Oh, boy. So, there we go. All right. Why don't we at least lower the lights a little? Well, I guess it's plenty visible.
Well, we have a few visuals to support the tentative 2026 town budget. And I guess I want to begin by saying that all of the materials we discuss and the full tentative budget will be available in the clerk's office for any resident that wants to review it. And also, it will be on the Town of Brighton website as well. So both the presentation and all of the details behind the tentative town budget are going to be available there as they are every year. In fact, there's about 4 or 5 years worth of history there. And just to make sure that any resident that wants to see the presentation details again or any of the other materials has the opportunity to do so. And there is also information on how to contact myself if they want to email with any questions. As the supervisor said, we try to make this as open a process as possible. So I just want to start by giving those reminders and try to go through some information here quickly. I want to thank the same people that Bill has previously thanked, including Marcia Adams. She spent many, many hours working on the budget, and also thanking my colleagues because there are too many to name. There's at least 36 people or more involved in the process, and I appreciate all of their time. We actually start back in May, beginning this process, so I do appreciate that time over these many months. So the proposed tentative budget includes an increase in the tax levy of $673,000, and which is 3.35%, which we are including the sewer district. And there's two reasons that we include the sewer district when we look at these numbers. And that is because the vast majority of residents are in the sewer district, and we have employees that we support in that special district, which is unlike any of the other special districts. So we have our big three town funds, being the general fund, the highway fund, and the library fund, and then we also have the sewer district. So if you are in the sewer district, which most residents are, the increase in tax levy is 3.35%. And if for those not in the sewer district, it would be 3.8%. We mentioned the increases to health benefits and retirement contributions this year that are over 10% in aggregate. So just that increase alone is $840,000. So someone may ask, how can we only increase the tax levy $673,000 and afford all of the other operational increases, including wage increases, when health and benefits have increased $840,000? And that's because we have looked at our other revenue estimates, and we've increased those estimates by $1.7 million. Some of those estimates being what we expect to see in sales tax income and departmental fees and grants. And also, we plan to increase the use of fund balance by about $200,000. So that tax levy is half the equation. The other half of the equation in computing the tax rate is what is the taxable assessed valuation. And this year, that has decreased town-wide. This change in taxable assessed valuation brings no revenue to the town, but it does affect the tax rate. And again, if you are in the sewer district, including the sewer district, the increase would be 4.42%. If you're not in the sewer district, it would be 4.87%. And some of the reasons for the change in the taxable assessed valuation this year were nonprofit purchases of taxable property, income exemptions related to different populations, New York State adjustments, and grievances that were resolved during the year. I just want to add quickly that this also may change slightly before the end of the year because the county freezes the valuation later on this year in, I think, late November. So those are the same numbers you're going to see here. For the general fund, highway fund, and library fund, there's a lot of detail here which I will not go through, but you can see the circled percentages are the same percentages we just discussed. And I will add that if your assessed valuation, for every $100,000 of your assessed valuation, the tax increase will be $28.89. This slide here includes all of the special districts, which we are required to include for tax cap purposes. And when computing the tax cap, it doesn't allow for change in size of districts. So when we add to the size of our special districts, for example, when more households join the refuse district, there is no allowance for that. So our change in total tax levy percentage here for everything altogether is 4.13%. But if we make an allowance for the change in size of the special districts, the actual increase is 3.36%. So now we look at our tax cap calculation, which Bill mentioned earlier, and our calculation for this year gives us an allowable increase of 2.2%. Again, there's no allowance for this change in special district size, so we have the 4.13% showing up again here at the bottom of the tax cap calculation. And as we've mentioned before, we just have so many costs that are unusually inflationary this year, in particular health insurance and retirement, that our tax levy increase is going to be above the tax cap. In addition to the growth of the special districts I mentioned earlier. So I'm going to briefly go through a few charts here. This one shows where town budget dollars come from. So you can see that over half of our revenue does come from property tax, but there are many other sources that make up the other 45% to come up with the total net revenues of $35 million. These are just the top three town-wide funds. This is just the library, highway, and general funds. And you see that the next largest revenue source is distributed sales tax, which we're estimating at $6 million in 2026. And also you see the amount of appropriated fund balance, which is savings from past years. So we do supplement our budget with fund balance. And we've had good experience these last several years of not needing to use that fund balance, but we do use it towards balancing our budget. I won't spend a lot of time here either, but this just shows you the last few years of results from sales tax revenue and why we have budgeted a higher number for this year, which helps keeps our tax levy lower. This slide looks at our mortgage tax, which we discussed earlier. It is a little more unpredictable, although we're hoping it becomes more predictable again looking forward. But in some years, we've had our actuals exceed our budget, and other years, it's been reversed. We expect to be pretty close this year, so we're budgeting the same amount for 2026 for mortgage tax. This pie chart here looks at how our expenses are spent by type. Again, you see our total budget at $35 million, and as is always the case, the vast majority of our expenses are for wages and benefits, and again this year it's about that 75% mark. So when our benefits are rising, as they have been, it's very challenging to work our budget, so we really have to keep very tight with all of our other categories. Again, with our benefits, the New York State contribution is not something we can control. That is a calculation given to us by New York State, and again, health benefits, we don't have control over those increases either. The next two slides give you a little more historical detail on retirement and health insurance. You can see here New York State retirement for many years, our contributions were relatively stable. In 2022, our total cost was only $2 million, and our estimated cost for 2026 is over $3.3 million. So this has not just been challenging this year, but it's been a new challenge since we've left the pandemic years, I would say, and the same is true for health insurance. We are now projected to spend almost $5 million on health and dental insurance. And by department, this pie chart shows how our town dollars are spent. I won't go into a lot of detail here, but it just breaks things down a little bit more by services provided. And then the following slides go beyond the budget numbers a little bit and just give an indication of the types of activities that are going on in the town, starting with our police force, working 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, answering roughly 50,000 calls, making over 500 arrests. You see there's a lot of other statistics here. In addition, they're providing many prevention and safety programs to keep the community as safe as possible. And almost 6,000 cases are going through the town court each year as well. When we look at our roadway and infrastructure maintenance, we have a variety of infrastructure to maintain during the town. Consider snow and ice control for 318 lane miles of roads during the winter, and then maintaining 195 lane miles each summer, in addition to answering 300 sewer service calls and maintaining 150 miles of sewer lines. And again, I'd like to take the time to read all of these in detail, but certainly anyone is encouraged to go back and review all the details of the statistics on these slides. We know the town library is a key part of the community, which is funded through your taxes. Patron visits are so high that every Brighton resident could be visiting the library over 5 times a year. So if you haven't visited the library, that means your neighbor has gone over 10 times a year.
That sounds right.
And over 50,000 people have attended library programs. These numbers, again, have been increasing each year. So they are certainly seeing a lot of residents on a daily basis. For our parks and recreation programs, our Parks Department is maintaining over 625 acres of parkland, and 180 different programs are offered in recreation each year, year-round, for participants of all ages. You get an idea here of the different types of activities going on. And then under general government services, you see how many of the day-to-day services ensuring public safety are funded here, such as building and fire code, maintaining those areas, zoning and planning, along with all of the services provided by the town clerk's office. I won't spend a lot of time on the last 3 slides either, because we did discuss our capital planning last meeting and approved the 3-year capital plan. So these slides are just the capital infrastructure planning that is going to happen in 2026. Again, we do our best to use grants to support our capital needs. One example would be we are spending over $1 million on road programs this in 2026, and half of those dollars are coming from grant funds. You can see here we have large amount of grant funding related to the new sidewalks that we'll be installing next year. We spend about $160,000 on forestry management, and we're always bonding a new plow each year to keep up with our 18 plow routes that we have during the winter. We have to provide capital infrastructure for some of our special districts. So you'll see here the sewer district is a main component of our capital plan as well, and also our sidewalk district. And we also contribute to the Brighton ambulance by purchasing 2 vehicles every 3 years. On our last slide, I just want to note that a large percentage of our capital budget does go toward debt service, which pays for the very large projects that we have used debt to fund in previous budget years. So that's the budget presentation. And again, encourage anyone interested to review the materials online or in person at the town clerk's office, and certainly I'm available for questions as well.
Thanks very much, Earl. Thanks again for all the work you've done. Thanks for putting together this presentation. Are there any questions? Again, we will have 2 budget hearings at our next 2 meetings, October 8th and October 22nd, both at 7 p.m. in this room. How are our interpreters doing? Do you need a break? Good, okay. Because we do have one more presentation. I'm going to ask, again, with the consent of the board, to make one more change to the agenda so that we can hear the presentation on the GCI Eastwater LLC proposed Eastwater Energy Storage Project. I'd like to move, which is now the last.
Have we checked to see if anybody is here regarding the trees?
We'll do the tree, there is no one on for the trees.
Okay, in
No.
which case, and no one present.
Yes, he would
Okay.
be the last.
All
So
right.
with everybody's consent, can I have a motion to, again, amend to move that item up in new business?
I move that we move that item up to the top of new business.
Second.
Dan, please call the roll.
Where is it? in the
It's the last
very
item
last
of new
item.
business now.
It was-
Presentation.
Liquid
Say again.
assets, the attestation, oh,
Not in the printed.
I don't see.
Yes, actually, that,
All right, it's not on my agenda.
that did come on at the that did come on at the last minute. You're right.
Okay.
That came on. And
That's why I
and just
don't
to be
see it.
clear, we are not taking any action on this matter. We have, in committee, heard a presentation, but we wanted to give the proposed applicant an opportunity to address the entire town board before coming in at our next meeting and asking for a referral to the planning board.
Got it. Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman.
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy.
Aye. Thank you, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. Daniel Brennan, I'm Director of Permitting and Counsel for Grid Connected Infrastructure LLC. Some of you may know me from the other presentations I did for the Public Works Committee meeting. I'm not sure if you've received a copy of our incentive zoning packet, but I have some copies for everyone today. Just wanted to make sure that you had a chance to see this.
Thank you.
Like I believe some of your other incentive zoning applications have gone so far, this, I have more.
It's okay, I'm not offended.
I've got a bunch more. Wanted to make sure everybody got a copy. This is a working document, and we look forward to continuing to work with the town to improve.
Thanks, Dan.
And to improve on this plan, and I expect that it will continue to evolve as the weeks and months go on. So just as a general introduction, this is the Eastwater.
And if I can have you
Absolutely.
speak at the podium, so our
Absolutely. This is the Eastwater Energy Storage Project. It will be located at the end of Mortimer Avenue. That's in between Crittenden and Town Line Road. It's next to an existing National Grid substation and the intersection of two very large transmission lines, power lines that bring electricity both east and west through New York State and north and south into Monroe County, long distances. We are right next to the Lynchwood Nature Park, and we are directly adjacent to the trail system, or the trail that I'm sure most of you are aware of. Hopefully I can get that to stay. So we'll be seeking an incentive zoning approval for this project. It's located in the RLL district. Obviously, battery energy storage systems are not a permitted use in that district. I'm not sure that they are permitted use in any of the districts under the town zoning code. And that's because battery energy storage is a relatively new use of very long and tried and tested type of technology, which is battery storage. We will be using lithium ion phosphate chemistry batteries. I am not a chemist. I recently took a seminar on battery cell construction and testing at RIT. I learned a lot more about batteries, but I'm still not quite capable of explaining to you exactly how those chemicals store energy and discharge them. But what I can tell you is that this system will allow us to charge 100 megawatts of energy for 4 hours of electricity for 4 hours, and then dispatch that electricity back to the grid. So we'll be able to provide 100 megawatts of electricity for a period of 4 hours. Most importantly, we will be able to dispatch that electricity, that full capacity of 100 megawatts instantaneously in milliseconds, less time than it takes to blink an eye. We can send 100 megawatts through the energy grid. There is no other type of technology that is capable of deploying energy that quickly. Gas power plants can't do it. Nuclear power plants can't do it. There is nothing solar and wind power plants cannot do it. Not the same way that battery storage can. It is vital for New York State and Monroe County's energy grid that battery energy storage systems are deployed on the grid immediately. It's important to the reliability of the grid to make sure that we don't have rolling blackouts as they've had in some communities. And that we are able to accommodate the constantly growing demand for electricity from electric vehicles, from homes, appliances, and from industry. And to ensure that this community will be able to take part in the evolving new economy in this country that relies on energy as the most basic economic unit. So we think that not only will this prevent blackouts and will improve the reliability of the grid, but it will allow the economy of the region to grow. I know, Mr. Supervisor, you mentioned earlier that the town is planning solar panels and geothermal system on the town's town hall renovation project, and you're concerned that that some of the federal incentives for those technologies are going to go away. Luckily for us, unlike solar and geothermal and wind, battery energy storage was spared by the recent cuts to the Biden Inflation Reduction Act, the federal law that subsidized renewable energy technologies. The reason why BESS was spared from the frankly devastating cuts to the rest of the renewable energy industry is not because the current Congress wants to decrease carbon emissions, which BESS will do, but because they recognize that battery energy storage is in fact critical to the continuing functioning of our grid. That brings me to the second point. While energy storage is, in a sense, generation agnostic, we would be charging these batteries from the grid, whether that energy is produced by a gas power plant or by a solar power plant. It doesn't matter. They're electrons when we charge them all the same. It allows solar and wind projects to be able to function on the grid effectively. As you may know, certain types of renewable energy, like solar and wind, are intermittent generators. Solar can only generate energy during the day when the sun is up, and wind generates intermittently depending on atmospheric conditions, whether there's wind. Those periods of generation do not necessarily line up with the periods of time when the grid needs electricity. The highest peak of demand in the day is usually around 5 o'clock, when everybody returns home from work and flips on their lights, turns on the TV, increases the power in the AC, and that happens throughout the community. Demand for electricity goes up. We can charge the batteries during the day when solar is generating, and we can deploy it in the evening when it's needed. That allows New York to continue, despite the devastating cuts to the federal subsidies, that allows New York to continue to advance its policy to replace fossil fuel generation with renewable energy generation. It will allow us to continue to build solar and wind projects. Not here in the town of Brighton, because there's not space in this community to have large-scale solar and wind farms. But there is space in other parts of the state, in rural areas, and this is an opportunity for the town of Brighton to play a critical role in ensuring the transition away from fossil fuels and supporting those solar and wind plants that are being built in other counties that have more space. I can feel that I'm starting to get on a rant here. I'll try and dial it back a little bit because you're going to hear from us again. We're going to go to the planning board, as you know, for a referral and hopefully for a positive recommendation, and then we'll come back to the town board for a final approval of the incentive zoning. And the incentives that we are requesting are fairly simple. There are two incentives. One is the use. Battery energy storage, as I mentioned earlier, is not a permitted use in the zoning district. It's probably not a permitted use in the zoning code. So that would be the first incentive. And the second incentive is the right to build a security fence, which would include barbed wire to make sure that the facility can't be breached by unauthorized persons. So those are the only two incentives that we are requesting. There is a much longer list of amenities that I think significantly outweighs any potential, the value of any of the incentives or any potential detriment that this project could cause to the community. The first, and what I think is the most important one, is the benefits to the energy grid. This project will increase grid reliability. That is absolutely necessary. The state of New York has determined that it's necessary. This project is participating in a NYSERDA procurement program, which is designed to procure, I believe, 6 megawatts of battery energy storage on New York's grid in the coming 3 years. So NYSERDA has a request for proposals, and our project has responded to that proposal, which would give us the opportunity to fund the project and pay for it. These would be state-level subsidies that would be brought into the town of Brighton to help build this project. And without getting into it too much, I think that this project will be very competitive in NYSERDA's RFP process. So grid reliability is amenity number one that we're requesting, or that we're proposing. The second is advancing the green energy transition, which I talked about a moment before. We facilitate the deployment of intermittent renewable resources such as solar and wind that don't generate at the times when the consumers need electricity and when the grid requires it. The third is economic development, which I also touched on a moment ago. The project will catalyze additional economic development in the region by providing a robust and reliable energy grid and providing additional capacity for new load projects, whether those be industrial centers, warehouse centers, new businesses, data centers, things of that nature, and allowing consumers to continue to transition to electricity as opposed to fossil fuels. There will also be temporary construction jobs. There will not be a significant number of permanent jobs because these facilities are generally operated remotely. The battery system operates in a lot of ways similar to the battery management system in your cell phone. The computer is constantly monitoring the temperature and the voltage of every single cell within the system, and it will automatically make changes in order to ensure that it is operating within its normal parameters. So for that reason, you don't need somebody on site 24/7. The project will likely be controlled from two separate remote operating centers, one controlled by us or a potential future owner of the project, and the other controlled by the manufacturer of the battery system itself. In addition to the economic benefits, there will be financial benefits. And so this is the part where we've made an initial proposal to the town. My assumption is that there will be additional feedback from the community, from members of this board, and we are, grid-connected infrastructure is receptive to additional feedback and additional negotiation. But our proposal is that we would negotiate a pilot for a total of $2 million over 15 years. The first $1 million of that pilot would be paid in the first year, and the other half would be paid in over the next 14 years. Just to put that into context, this project on the other side of the ledger will not have significant impacts on municipal resources. It won't be connected to water. It won't be connected to sewer because there will be nobody working there. It will not cause any traffic, again, because there won't be anybody working there. The only impact that this project may have on municipal services is to fire. And I'll take this opportunity to discuss one of the other amenities that we're proposing, which is that we will provide the necessary and appropriate training to both the fire department and any emergency services to make sure that they are capable of adequately serving this project. And I say that that's an amenity and not just a requirement of operating this plant, because the same techniques that the fire department will learn from this training are applicable to all types of battery fires. And if you do a little bit of research on battery fires, which I know members of the public always will do, you'll find that there are quite a number of fires but most of them are electric vehicles and other consumer products like electric bikes, lawnmowers, hoverboards, batteries that are not as well designed as the ones that we will be using. Those are a real problem for our firefighters today, and the training that they'll receive as part of this program will be applicable to those types of fires as well. So I think that we can consider that an additional amenity to the community, that the fire department will get this additional training. Last but not least, there will be a cash amenity. And so what we've proposed is two separate payments. The first one would be a $250,000 payment to the town. And the second would be a $50,000 payment to an appropriate entity or municipality, government agency to provide for planning services, development services to benefit the trail system that is currently under development in the town and in some neighboring communities as well. And so that's something that we will have to negotiate and finalize, but that one, I think, probably doesn't go to the town. Maybe it goes to some other appropriate agency so that we can make sure that those dollars go back into the trail system that we're adjacent to. Before I finish, I'll just note our site plan here, and I've left some additional copies of the site plan there that I intended to hand it to you guys. But we are on a almost 19-acre site. This is the whole site here. But our development area will be less than 5 acres. So the part that you see in color is the only area that will be disturbed. You can see that there are some delineated wetlands here. We've conducted our wetlands delineation. Our delineation was sent to DEC, and it was verified by the DEC. So it has been determined that our current site plan will not impact the wetlands. There's also all of this wooded area to the east. Another amenity that I guess I didn't put on my list here is that we would provide a conservation easement to the town, which would say that all of this area to the east, including the wetlands, but also this part, which is not wetlands, will be forever wild. And this is what is directly adjacent to the Lynchwood Nature Park. So this is, in a sense, becomes an extension of the park. It makes your park bigger here, which I think is a real benefit. On our site plan, you can see we have a detention pond, small access road, and these orange little rectangles there, those are the battery containers. The battery containers are about the size of a typical shipping container, and makes it really easy for us to construct this project. We can just drive them on the back of a truck to the site. They're about 28 feet long, 6 feet wide, and 9 feet tall. They sit on concrete pads, and so even with the concrete pad, maximum height is 12 feet. So this project will not be visible from the nearest road because of the profile of the batteries. They're too short. They won't be noticeable from the road. They do make some sound. The batteries have an HVAC system on the top, not much different from the HVAC system on a commercial building. So there is. I visited a site in Hawaii where they had. It was very hot that day, and the AC was running at full blast. You can hear it, but it's not sort of out of the typical sound that you'd hear from a building on a hot day. I think maybe the area of biggest concern is that you have the nature trail just here to the west. And there is no doubt that this project is right adjacent to that nature trail, and we can appreciate that the community will probably have some concerns about that, which is why we've added the $50,000 amenity as part of our proposal. But I think to put it into context, we need to look at what's there right now. You have two very large, long-distance transmission lines. That's why we're locating at this site. It provides the best opportunity for us to charge from potential solar panels and generation sites all over the state, and the same opportunity to send that energy where it's needed. That's why we want to locate here. It's almost like the intersection, like a highway intersection. It's easiest to get the electrons where they need to go. But so you have these extremely tall towers. I'm actually not sure how tall they are. And you have an very large existing substation that's directly adjacent to the property as well. So I think that what we're proposing is consistent with the existing character of this area. And you already have a condition where, as you're walking down this trail, you see major critical electrical infrastructure. This project, I don't believe, will substantially change that. If you look on this bottom picture, this dotted red line is approximately where the tops of the battery containers would be. So about 12 feet tall. Our site is over here behind this existing vegetative buffer. So we don't believe, for instance, from this perspective, that you would be able to see the battery enclosures. There are some vantage points on the trail where you would be able to see the battery enclosures. We've shown them in our visual impact assessment as part of the seeker review. We submitted a visual impact assessment and an EAF, and so we can evaluate the visual impacts that those battery containers may have. But I think compared to those transmission lines, these are white or gray boxes. They really don't look like much, and if you're a renewable energy dork like me, they're actually kind of beautiful because you know that they are allowing us to transition to renewable intermittent energy generation resources, which is critical for our future and our children's future. So if this project were built today, and if it's funded by NYSERDA, it would be the first of its kind in the state of New York. We do not have any transmission-connected, standalone battery energy storage existing in the state of New York right now. There are projects like this all over the country. In fact, California and Texas, of all places, are leading the way. They're leading the way because they have more renewable energy resources on their grid already. They have more of these intermittent resources that require batteries. New York State doesn't have that yet, but the policy of the state of New York is that we are going to have that in the future, and that we are not going to continue to build fossil fuel power plants and other types of polluting infrastructure. The policy of the state of New York is that we're going to have more battery energy storage, and I think this would be a great addition to the town of Brighton. So with that, I'm sorry to preach to you here, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
I think you've told us before, but in one of your many presentations, but I don't remember, how many of these systems are there in the U.S.? There's the one in Hawaii, and I know it was a slog to get there and a rough visit, I'm sure. But,
It was not.
I appreciate the legwork you did. But how many beyond that one?
I should have that answer for you. I don't. I will get that answer for you. But the capacity of existing standalone battery storage systems in the United States is well over 10 gigawatts. So more than 10 times, 1,000 times what we are proposing here today. My guess is that there are at least 100 projects throughout the United States. I've worked on about 20 myself. We have 12 under development at Grid Connected Infrastructure, 2 in the state of New York, the other is in the city of Dunkirk. But so these have been operating in California and Texas and Hawaii and Kansas for many years, mostly without incident. But I will get, that is an important question, and I will get you the answer.
And mostly without incident. What type of incident has occurred?
So if you Google battery storage, one of the first things that will come up is battery storage fires. So there have been some incidents with some of the first or early generation systems where they catch fire. I learned quite a bit about that at RIT last week and how a battery fire works, why it might catch fire. The biggest problem with a battery fire is that because it's a chemical reaction, it generally cannot be extinguished by using water, which is what you would use for a non-battery fire, for a house fire. The good thing about a battery fire is it can be controlled much better than a house burning or a building burning. And that's because all of the energy is contained. We have these 66 containers on the site, but the 66 containers are filled with racks of battery cells, and the racks are contained in modules. And I believe I'll have to find it for you. I have a battery cell, that a similar type of battery cell that is found in one of these systems. They look like maybe a C battery. There are thousands of those batteries within each of the containers, and each one of those cells can be controlled individually by the battery management system. And so when a problem is detected, each individual cell can be discharged, which means you can remove the energy from the area where there's a problem. If things are heating up in one part of the container, you can discharge the cells around that so that the fire doesn't spread. And that's what's been proven time and time again, both with the large-scale fire testing, which has been conducted by the industry on these systems, but also in the incidents. If you look at some of the incidents that have occurred over the years, while there have been problems, none of the fires have spread. There has not been an example of a similar battery storage container where the fire spread from one to the other. In fact, the large-scale fire testing shows that it doesn't spread within the container. So that's a long answer to the question, but there's some good parts about it as well, and part of our proposal is that we will educate the fire department on how all of that stuff works.
And it would be Henrietta Fire Department and Brighton Fire Department?
Yes, and any other first responders that are interested. And this is actually one of the recommendations that the governor's interagency workforce, task force that studied some of the battery storage fires that came up with. They studied these problems, and their recommendation was that the builders, the developers provide these services for the local fire departments, that you provide training on battery storage fires, and that's how you mitigate the risk.
Other questions, Robin?
Yeah, I just wanted to have a point of clarification, because I think early on in the presentation, you kind of skipped over it because you were not talking specifically about the chemical type of battery, but you said lithium ion phosphate, and is it lithium ion phosphate or lithium iron phosphate? Because I do think there has been evolution in the technology, and lithium iron phosphate is a lot less susceptible to that heat overrun than a lithium ion.
You are correct. I misspoke. It is lithium iron. It's the acronym is LFP,
Okay.
and it is essentially the cutting edge of what is being used commercially. There are new battery chemistries that are being developed every day at RIT by some amazing people, but the LFP is the most reliable and safest that's found in these systems. And we will be deploying the top of the line system in addition to this better chemistry,
Okay.
and which will include all of the safety systems that are being recommended by the state of New York, by the Interagency Working Group on Battery Storage Safety.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
I just want to say, so first off, it's clear that you guys all paid attention more in chemistry than I did, because I'm very impressed that you guys caught the difference. I just wanted to say that I'm thrilled that you guys are bringing this or proposing this project here in Brighton. I've talked to, you call yourself a renewable energy dork, and I'd say, I match that. I think anyone who's paying attention in government or politics right now knows that cost of living is a huge topic of conversation, and one of the fastest rising drivers of that is cost of energy. And I may not have paid attention so much in chemistry, but I did pay attention in economics when they talked about supply and demand, and I know that demand is only increasing, and we need to increase supply. And I think I want to commend you and your team here for doing these projects. It makes all the sense in the world to me that Brighton would lead on this issue like we lead on so many other issues. So I just wanted to say, thank you for coming back to the town, and I look forward to see how this progresses.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Any other questions?
We've had presentations now twice, I believe, at Public Works.
At least.
And it is a interesting and I'd say exciting project. It remains to be seen. The particulars are presented to the planning board and what their input is. It addresses a need, and I'm pleased to see it.
Appreciate it.
And if I can just add, over the course of those presentations, I have gone from having many questions and concerns to having pretty much all of the concerns assuaged and the questions answered. I'm trying really hard to come up with more questions and maybe some concerns, but you've adequately, more than adequately addressed anything that's crossed our minds along the way, of my mind at least.
Thank you. And I'll get you that data on the number of existing systems, because that was an important question.
Thank you.
I know everybody at the table generally understands, and you alluded to the process from here. But the town of Brighton has incorporated in our town code a process that lays out the interface really between the town board and the planning board, bless you, for making sure that the site planning process within the purview of the planning board is incorporated as a matter of code in our review process. At the next meeting, the town board will have an opportunity to consider really two things. One, whether this is a project worthy of further review. And two, following from that, a referral to the planning board for what is essentially a concept site plan review. So that would be the first step. As you also indicated, and I appreciate, although our code requires, as you have, that you lay out incentives and amenities, the incentives being whether a use-type variance, as you have here with the fact that battery storage is not a use listed in our code. Interestingly enough, we've had some lower tech uses that don't appear in our code. In particular, there is a project at the corner of Clover and Monroe that didn't appear in our code either, and that's a car wash. So it's not just that this is a very cutting-edge technology. Our code doesn't list every possible type of project. But plus you have an area type variance with the barbed wire fencing. So the planning board and the town board interface together, each one doing their own work as we go through. And as I was indicating, you've made a proposal relating to the scope of the amenity. That, too, is, of course, something that the town board will review, will work with staff, will make an evaluation as to whether that amenity, whether all of the items that you have listed in here as potential amenities, in fact, are amenities under our code, and B, their evaluation and as to whether they properly reflect the impacts of the incentives. So all of that will proceed apace if the town board takes the next step of determining the appropriateness of further review and referral to the planning board. Lauren, is there anything else you wanted to add from a process perspective?
No, Supervisor, I think that you really outlined what the process is going to be moving forward. At the next meeting, you'll just consider whether or not to advance it, to recommend it to the planning board, and that'll really kick off the incentive zoning review process. So.
Then if there's no questions, thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Can I have a motion to just to receive and file the materials here?
I move that we receive and file the materials
The
presented.
incentive zoning application dated August 27, 2025 from GCI Eastwater LLC.
All of that.
Second.
We have a motion to receive and file the incentive zoning application dated August 27th from GCI Eastwater LLC. It's been moved by Councilmember Corrado, seconded by Councilmember Wilt. Dan, please call the...
When we say receive and file, this is as a communication or just as part of a presentation?
Well, this is their application. This is their initial incentive zoning application.
Okay, we have yet to consider whether it is worthy of further
Correct.
consideration.
We're making no such
No.
Correct.
consideration tonight. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. You're still good? Okay, then we'll continue on. We'll go back up in the agenda to public hearings. Tonight, we do have one public hearing on our agenda. It is a public hearing under the tree law to consider the proposed removal and replacement of a 32-inch silver maple at 20 Bonnie Bray and a 42-inch elm at 58 Summit Drive. Dan, has the necessary legal notice been given in this matter?
Yes, Supervisor, notice was published in the September 15th edition of the Daily Record.
And communication has been made to adjoining property owners?
Yes, sir. The notices were sent out to the neighbors on September 20th.
Thank you. Legal notice having been given under the town code, the tree law, I declare this public hearing to be open. Is there anyone here in the room that would like to address the town board on this matter? It certainly got
Doesn't look like it.
empty. I see no one in the room either. Are there any questions or comments from members of the board?
Bill, the only thing I noticed in the presentation on the budget that we removed 54 trees last year, we replaced 58.
Correct.
So when we say repair, removal and replacement, we mean it, and we actually put in more trees than we take out.
That's correct. I had a question when we set this down for a public hearing. As I do, I drove by the properties, and one of the things I noticed at 58 Summit was that there were two trees that looked a lot alike. First, I want to make sure we're dealing with the right tree. But second, I guess my question was, are there issues, some of the issues that are identified here? I was curious as to whether our arborist had considered as potential hazards in the tree that was right next to this one, and has any consideration been given to the condition of that other tree?
I may have to defer to Councilwoman Corrado on this one because she chairs the conservation board that the trees go to, but I
my
believe...
recollection, that was noted by the conservation board as well, and the arborist was present, and that is the end of my recollection. I do not recall what the next step was at that point, but he all noted that indeed there was another tree that was also looking to be in need of assessment. So it is either on his list now for assessment or, yeah.
Okay.
And I'll follow up with the highway superintendent.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, that's not a reason to...
Right.
To not move forward based on the arborist's report on that tree in particular, but on both of these trees, which
And I
Both have significant
if I
issues.
do recall correctly, and I know that that is in the materials here, the recommendation was to replace it, but not immediately adjacent to
That's
the
correct.
other tree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Maybe Kyle can just initial the one that isn't to be cut down like a surgeon would.
Well, whether some kind of ribbon or marking or something like that. It doesn't happen very often, but I'm aware of at least one situation in town where the wrong tree was cut and it was replaced, but obviously not with a tree as large as the tree that was removed. So, any other comments? Again, I see no one here on remote, and we have nobody in the room. I declare this public hearing to be closed. I'll ask Councilmember Corrado for a motion.
Certainly. In the matter of the removal and replacement of a 32-inch silver maple at 20 Bonnie Bray Avenue and a 42-inch elm at 58 Summit Drive, I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Discussion. Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Communications, can I have a motion to receive and file the communications? Chris?
Bill, I move that we receive and file the communications as indicated.
Second?
We have two tonight. The first, actually, both of them have been alluded to. The first one is from Simonia Brown, Assistant Comptroller in the state of New York. Correspondence dated September 18th, 2025, that for the fourth consecutive year, the town of Brighton, again, has a perfect score of no fiscal stress. They break it out into two categories, fiscal and environmental, and on both criteria, the town of Brighton graded 0, which in school wasn't very good, but in fiscal stress scores from the state of New York is as good as it gets.
I think that was my chemistry grade, actually.
For 4 years, and this is another one of those things that to some extent, COVID has been a factor. The fiscal scores across the state have generally improved, in no small part because of ARPA money and other fiscal aid. I would note, however, that Brighton, at our population of 37,000, we've talked about this below, is below the CDBG population cutoff, which is what was used to determine the amount of ARPA aid you got. So, for example, Brighton, with a population of about 37,000, received about $3.8 million in ARPA aid, most of which is going towards the town hall project. Irondequoit, with a population of about 57,000, or a little bit more than 50% more than the town of Brighton, received over $22 million in ARPA funds, approximately 6 times as much. So I'm not looking the gift horse in the mouth. It was very helpful as we recovered and continued to grow our community. Sure would have been nice to have, a proportionate for a community our size, but in any event. So that's the one communication. The second is from the Sustainability Oversight Committee and their capital improvement plan review comments, which we had seen but hadn't formally received as an item of communication. So it is now formally in the record, and it is something that was reviewed and considered certainly by Earl and Budget Review Task Force in analysis of the review of the CIP. We have a motion. It's been seconded. Any further comment? Hearing none. Dan, please call the roll to receive and file.
Councilmember Werner.
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt.
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado.
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman.
Aye.
Supervisor Mailing.
Aye. Committee reports, and I will note we're at 10 to 10, so
Yes.
use that information accordingly. Community Services, Robin.
Certainly. The Community Services Committee met last Wednesday, September 17th. Among the items that we discussed were under continuing business of park updates. Fall youth sports are resuming, reflecting a trend toward longer seasons and increased demand for fields. Town parks will remain open through October 31. Field use pressures are increasing from the community in Brighton Central School District as BCSC fields are being redone, so discussions are ongoing regarding concerns with increased demands on field use and prioritization of users of the fields. Good news, 1,500 lineal feet of trail maintenance is underway at Corbett's Glen. Parks crews are focusing on the worst portions of the trail to improve conditions and accessibility. And Park Superintendent continues to reach out to CSX regarding the condition of the wooden bridge under the CSX train trellis, which is not town property, but rather CSX responsibility. Parks Department is working with Birch Crest Tree to obtain hardwood chips free of charge to be used on the trails, which is also good news. And then in maintaining playgrounds, 300 cubic yards of playground mulch has been spread on the play areas in the parks. 12 corner parking improvements were accomplished by dint of a $500 donation from the Garden Lovers Club of Brighton. We thank you. And with that generous donation, crews were able to plant over 70 mums on the corners. Hornet and yellow jackets have been at a heightened risk in the parks this year, so parks crews have been working with an extermination company to remediate the situation, so please do be careful out there. As the seasons change, they'll become less of a threat, but be mindful. An update to our recreation programs. We celebrated the homecoming parade or homecoming for BCSD on Saturday, September 20. The Recreation Department participated in tabling as well as having a rec van in the parade. Trunk or Treat is being hosted at the Golisano Institute this year due to ongoing construction at Town Hall. The town hopes to enhance partnerships with the Golisano Institute in the future as well, and we've heard about some of that. Fall program registration is going well, and as a result of ARPA grant funding, senior fitness programs are being offered for free to Brighton residents. Preschool programming is undergoing a revamp with our new recreation leader. An update to staffing, to continue to meet programming demands, the town is in the process of hiring to replace a full-time recreation leader and a part-time office staff position. New York State Historic Preservation Grant Letter of Interest has been submitted in hopes of securing funding for renovations at the Buckland House. And of course, we have the Bricks Grant application that was submitted in August, and we anticipate a response in November. Also, at the request of the Recreation Director, there are plans underway to add an AED and an naloxone station at the Winter Farmers Market Barn. And then have some updates from the Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity Advisory Board. The IDEA Board is busy preparing 5 upcoming town-wide events and programs. Of course, we have Hispanic Heritage Month tomorrow, September 26th, here in this room at noon. There will be 3 honorees, an entertainment component, and participation by the Latin Club at Brighton High School, and food provided by Carmen's Cooking. And then backed by popular demand, our Town Talk series resumes this fall with topics to include A Week Without Driving. It's about accessibility on Monday, September 29th. Vision Casting, Do You See What I See? A conversation with Gen Z on Thursday, October 9. And New Americans, Are We Welcoming or Warding Off? On Thursday, October 16. All programs will be held here at Empire State University from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Town will also honor Indigenous Peoples Day on Friday, October 10th at 12 p.m. here, and the town will also recognize Diwali on October 30th. As mentioned, the SOC, an update to the SOC, the Sustainability Oversight Committee finalized its CIP letter to the town, which, while it did not get formally submitted for inclusion in advance of the town board meeting on September 10th, where we adopted the CIP, many of the priorities that have been under consideration during the budget planning process. Solar panel installation in conjunction with the CEC grant funding program has not proceeded as anticipated to schedule. Follow-up is being performed by the town to codify the timeline for installation and dates to ensure completion as soon as possible. Also related to the CEC grant funding program, the Buckland Park geothermal project is going out for rebidding and redesign. And then I just wanted to give a list of upcoming events. I mentioned here Hispanic Heritage Month, Indigenous Peoples Day, the Town Talk series Trunk or Treat will be on Saturday, October 18th at 10 a.m. The DEA prescription drug take-back event will be at here at Town Hall at Empire State University, Saturday, October 25th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Our semi-annual electronics recycling and secure document shredding event will be at the Brighton Highway Department parking lot, 1941 Elmwood Avenue on Sunday, October 26th from 9 a.m. to 12 noon. The next meeting of the Community Services Committee will be on Wednesday, October 15th at 10 a.m. or immediately following the Finance and Administrative Services Committee meeting at the Brighton Recreation Center, 1666 Winton Road South. As always, members of the public are welcome to attend.
Thank you, Robin. Nate, Finance.
Thanks, Bill. The Finance and Administrative Services Committee last met on September 17th. You heard the budget presentation. That was most of the meeting. Earl asked me to read line by line from the whole budget, so here we go. No. I will point out, the supervisor said this, but we will have 2 budget hearings at our next 2 town board meetings, and we'd love your feedback. And the budget actually exists in paper copy up in Dan's, not office, but your team's office space, right? The town clerk's office. The Finance and Administrative Services Committee next meets on October 1st at 8:30 a.m.
Thank you. Chris, Public Safety.
Thank you, Bill. We reported on the September Public Safety, or excuse me, the August, let me try it again, the September Public Safety meeting at our last town board meeting. And the next meeting will be October 14th here at Town Hall.
And speaking of public safety, although he has a nameplate we don't often see, but welcome Captain Tim Karch. Captain Tim Karch has a nice ring to it.
Captain Karch.
Happy to be here.
Public Works, Christine.
Everyone will be thrilled to know that Public Works has not met since the last town board meeting. Therefore, there are no minutes to read out. But we will be meeting on October 14th at 9 a.m. or following Public Safety if you run long, which you never do.
Thank you.
We'll start at 8 and we'll be, I hope to be done by 9.
Yeah.
We have no old business. New business, reading and approval of claims. Nate.
Yes, Bill, earlier today I reviewed claims totaling $1,598,989.90. One notable claim includes payment for 2025 sidewalk repair program, total cost $105,928.80. I bring that up because the supervisor likes to point out the cost to repair one square sidewalk is over $500. Did I get that right? And, but it's, cost has gone up, it's still a priority for us. So we continue to pay for that to help accessibility in our town and help you achieve your week without driving. Bill, all claims appear to be in order, and I move for them to be approved.
Second?
Discussion. Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman?
Aye.
Supervisor Mailer?
Aye. Christine?
Of course, the next matter seeks to authorize the disposal of one 2012 Ford F-750 from the Sewer Department and authorize disposal through an online or in-person auction or through Enterprise Fleet. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
We all marveled when we discussed this, because none of us really was familiar with a F-750.
Big truck.
Big truck. I guess that's why none of us are sewer commissioners. Any further discussion? Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman?
Aye.
Supervisor Mailer?
Aye. Chris?
Next item, Bill, is to declare as junk for disposal 19 Shaw chairs from the police department. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman?
Aye.
Supervisor Mailer?
Aye. Chris, why don't you do the next one as well?
Similarly, the next item is to declare as junk for disposal 7 Avignon cameras.
Vigilon, but close.
Vigilon.
A Vigilon.
Yeah.
Vigilon.
You made it French.
I was brought up German, actually. Declare as junk for disposal 7 Vigilon cameras from the police department. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Discussion? Captain, anything you want to?
No, I think
Ed?
the letter the chief wrote speaks for itself. So.
All right. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman?
Aye.
Supervisor Mailer?
Aye. Robin?
Certainly, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to enter into an agreement with 2 veterinarians and 2 veterinary technicians for the annual rabies clinic in an amount not to exceed $510. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second.
And that rabies clinic is October 4th. And that is being held, Tim, at
At the Winners Farmer Market.
Right.
On Westfall Road.
And have we identified the veterinarians available?
I know there was some question.
Yes, we have. I have his name here, I believe. Give me 1 second. Earl Adams.
All right.
One of the veterinarians.
We're able to find some.
Good. All right. Anything further? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman?
Aye.
Supervisor Mailer?
Aye. Nate?
Yep, the next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute change orders for the town hall renovation with the Landry Mechanical in an amount not to exceed $29,689.66. I move that we approve this motion as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second?
There are 4 change orders here. Landry Mechanical, although you wouldn't know it from their name, is our plumbing contractor on the town hall project. As you know, any change orders aggregating in total over 10% of the base bid come to the town board. we are over on this contract. So these 4 items, which are laid out in the September 15th letter, are included. We've discussed those at previous meetings. Any further comment? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Why don't you do the next one too, Nate?
The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute change orders for the town hall renovation with Milestone Construction Partners, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $31,056. I move that we approve this motion as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second?
A couple items in particular that I think are relevant here, and this again, we are above the 10% of the base bid. One of these, which really thanks in no small part to Councilmember Corrado, we discussed the use of ADA actuators, which is a fancy word for the things that you wave your hand over to make a door or other portal open. And that obviously, and as you
There's
really
nothing
taught
more
all of us.
frustrating than to be able to enter a building just fine with automatic doors, but to get to the restroom and have to ask for help. So
Yeah.
we need to honor and support the dignity of everyone in our community.
Yeah, yeah. We also, another one of the 4 change orders included here relates to restoration of some of the walled-off area in the library. As we were doing asbestos abatement, a small portion of the library staff area was walled off to ensure there was the need to do asbestos abatement in that area, and we wanted to make sure that the rest of the staff area remained safe. And now we want to make sure that the area that was walled off, when it goes back into operation, won't look like a construction zone. So there's some extra work being done there, along with the other 2. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Robin, the next one, please.
Certainly. The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute a change order for the preparation of the town's New York Bricks Grant Program application with Colliers Engineering and Design in an amount not to exceed $5,500. I move that we adopt the resolution as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second. Sorry.
We've talked about this before. The application for the Bricks grant was very, very extensive, over 290 pages in length. Not all of that was original material, but it was a very thorough, time-consuming, and we hope successful, ultimately, process. Significant additional time, therefore, was required by Colliers Engineering. This is less than the full amount of the additional time that they engaged, but it is a change order that they have agreed in amount to. So, anything further?
Thank you for negotiating that.
Negotiating the town.
Yes.
Down.
Down. Yes. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman?
Aye.
Supervisor Manley?
Aye. Nate.
The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute an amended professional services agreement for 2025 with Mancuso Brightman, PLLC, to expand the potential scope of services provided by the firm for the remainder of the term until December 31st, 2025. I move that we approve this motion as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second?
This follows discussions we've had with John Mancuso and recognizes that as we've got some new folks in the planning area We know there may be some additional requirements, whether they're training-related. Seeker is an area that we've talked about. So this amendment to the retainer agreement will make it clear that the scope of services that may be provided by the Mancuso-Brightman firm is somewhat broader than what was included in the original agreement. Any discussion? Hearing, and who seconded that? I'm sorry, did you, Robin?
Yes.
Robin.
Okay. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Nate, the next one, a lot of finance-related stuff.
Yeah, that's right. The next matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to, we're on the next one, sign the attestation, it's late at night to be saying big words, and affirmations confirming the town is participating in the New York Cooperative Liquid Assets Security Systems and PMA Financial Network. I move that we approve this motion as prepared by the attorney to the town.
Second?
Again, as we've discussed, there's been a merger, and this is more the documentation arising out of the merger of which NY Class, which is the New York Cooperative Legal Assets Securities System, which is one of the permitted investments that Earl uses for the investment of funds, paperwork that they require. Any further discussion? Earl, anything more you need to say? Are we going to keep hearing class and laugh and everything else?
We won't be hearing laugh anymore.
No, we won't. They're gone.
Yep, it'll make it a little simpler, but I think that's about it.
And hopefully there will be a competing short-term investment vehicle. I know there's talk about a potential new provider. Hopefully more to follow. Dan, if you'd call the roll, please.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. And Christine, the last item
Yes, is this really the last item?
of new business.
All right, well, the end is near. The last matter seeks to authorize the supervisor to execute an agreement with New York State Department of Transportation, granting that department permission to enter the town's right-of-way in connection with pavement resurfacing on Route 286, which is Browncroft Boulevard, from Route 590 to Qualtrough Road. I move that we adopt the resolution before us.
Second.
Similar to the item that we handled at our last meeting where we approved a couple of manholes, this is a short but I think helpful sidewalk connection that they will be building in the right-of-way as part of the project. Any further discussion?
We'll never say no to sidewalks.
Nope. That's right. Dan, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. We've already heard the GCI, so matters of the supervisor. I just want to, it's that time of year where the leaves are starting to fall. It's interesting, I posted a picture of a storm drain a couple days ago on Facebook, generated a lot of interest. That storm drain was covered with leaves. I'm not going to tell you where it was, but, you know, we're hoping that if your storm drain looks like that storm drain, whether today or whether a month from now when the leaves are really falling, please remember, if you've got a storm drain out in front of your house, go out and clear it. Those clogged storm drains can cause street flooding and can become a safety hazard to everybody. And the real message from that is, where do you pile your leaves? Please don't pile your leaves in the street. Certainly not on top of a storm drain, but anywhere in the street, because they will almost inevitably wash down into the storm drain. Whether your leaves and whether your garden, lawn and garden debris is containerized, remember, no plastic, don't put it in plastic bags, don't put grass clippings out, but containerize leaves, lawn debris in the big brown paper bags or in a refuse trash can. We'll pick those up. Put them out bulk. We'll pick them up. But please don't put them in the street. Put them in the tree lawn between the sidewalk and the street pavement. If you don't have a sidewalk, just put them in your lawn as close as you can, but not in the street. We'll remind you of, that's an ongoing reminder, and it's tough. I mean, I know a lot of folks have landscape contractors. Sometimes people ask, well, why don't you tell them not to pile their leaves in the street? And unlike some of the very technical, things like plumbers who have specific licenses, these firms that are raking up or blowing people's leaves out into the street range from the big ones, and you see their trucks all over town, to the high school kid down the street who might be raking up someone's lawn, maybe helping out their neighbor that can't do it for themselves. And that's a great thing. But if you have someone like that, if someone else is doing your leaves, please remember to ask them, don't pile them in the street. Pile them on the grass. Okay. Matters of the town attorney, Lauren.
I have no update.
Thank you. Matters of the clerk.
Starting with my assessor's hat, and I can go for a while because I brought my heater, so I'm plenty comfy.
I noticed that.
But for folks who have existing local exemptions, so the disability exemptions, the disability income exemptions, the age and income exemptions, we're working now, these next couple of weeks, we'll hope to have those renewals out in the mail and to you. Probably going to mail those out in batches alphabetically just to manage the flow, because the thing that I've noticed as the receiver through the years is that when seniors receive that tax bill, or whatever date it is, they come day one because they're prompt and they're right on the ball. So these exemptions, again, the same thing, they come right away. So rather than have hundreds of folks, storming the castle on the same day, we'll probably mail those out in batches so we can manage the workflow. And then as soon as we get those out, we'll be opening up the application process for folks that don't currently have any of those exemptions they may be eligible for. So keep an eye out for that. Actually working during the meeting tonight, getting some of that stuff ready to put up on the website and forms available to make it easier for folks to take care of that. Because, again, the thing I've noticed through the years, more and more folks every year, seniors are, they're not afraid of computers anymore. Like, these seniors are on the ball. They're all on iPads doing all this stuff. And so I think we focus more stuff on the website and keep them in mind when we do that. Try to just make it easier for them as well for that stuff. Although, reminders, you'll be able to mail in the applications or you can bring them in person, but we cannot accept them electronically due to real property tax law reasonings that I'm not fully have under my belt just yet. I'm working on it. I'm getting there, but anyway, mail and in person only. Clerk side, due date for school taxes, the fulls is Wednesday, October 1st. So keep that in mind. The first will be busy because human nature, we wait till the last minute. So we got 3 more days to spread it out between tomorrow and Wednesday. Otherwise, I think that's about it.
Thank you, Dan. Matters of the board.
You really don't want us to have matters of the board.
No, you're right. Well, again, thank you to our interpreters. We do appreciate it.
Do we not have an executive session?
We do not have an executive session tonight.
That was removed?
It was removed. So again, thank you to our interpreters. Our next meeting will be back on Wednesday night, October 8th, right here at ESU at 7 p.m. And to everyone who has been celebrating Rosh Hashanah, Shana Tova. And can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
Deanne, please call the roll.
Councilmember Werner?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilt?
Aye.
Councilmember Corrado?
Aye.
Councilmember Salzman?
Aye.
Supervisor Mealy?
Aye. Thank you, everybody.
So Tim, did you